Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Carl Jung, in The Fire of Confrontation. We are tempted to lose ourselves, to react, fight, to control. But the wise soul does not collapse into chaos. The wise soul watches and understands. Let us explore how to stay calm in any confrontation, not by suppressing your instincts, but by transcending them, by knowing what lives beneath them. In every confrontation, what disturbs us most about the other person is often something unacknowledged within ourselves. The anger we see in them, the arrogance, the weakness, the coldness. These qualities, which stir emotion in us, are frequently not foreign but familiar. They belong not only to the other, but also to us. This is the essence of projection. We unconsciously cast our own disowned traits, our unlived potentials, and our inner conflicts onto others, especially during emotionally charged moments. When someone challenges you, your mind may immediately label them as disrespectful, selfish, cruel. But what if the confrontation is not about them at all? What if it is about you? About something unresolved within, something hidden that seeks expression? Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not a call to tolerate abuse or injustice. It is a call to examine why something provokes you so deeply. Why does this moment shake you? Why this person? Why now? If you can pause in the heat of the confrontation even for a breath, and turn the question inward, what part of me am I seeing in them? You will activate self-awareness, and with awareness comes power. The power to choose a response instead of being enslaved by a reaction. The power to understand that the battlefield is not outside of you. It is within. Projection is an unconscious act. But the moment it becomes conscious, the spell is broken. The other person loses their control over your emotions, because you are no longer looking at them. You are looking through them, into yourself. And in that moment, the confrontation transforms. You are no longer merely defending yourself. You are discovering yourself. In the face of confrontation, we often find ourselves slipping into roles without realizing it. The martyr, the aggressor, the intellectual, the pleaser. These roles are not your authentic self. They are masks carefully constructed over time to help you survive, to gain approval, to feel protected. In Jungian psychology, we call this mask the persona, the part of you that is shaped to meet the world's expectations. The persona is not inherently false. It is necessary for social interaction, for navigating the outer world. But when you are confronted, especially in moments of emotional charge, the persona can take over completely. You become the mask. You react not from your inner truth, but from the role you've unconsciously decided to play. And in doing so, you betray yourself. Think of a moment when someone questioned your worth or challenged your beliefs. Did you defend yourself aggressively, even when silence would have served you better? Did you shrink and seek their approval, even when your spirit knew you were right? That is the persona at work. A reactive identity, fighting to stay intact. But your real strength lies beyond the mask. To stay calm in confrontation, you must withdraw inward. Step behind the persona and return to your core. Ask yourself, who is observing this conflict? Who is aware of the mask being worn? That presence, the observer, the silent witness, is yourself. It is stable, grounded, and untouched by external noise. It does not need to prove anything. It does not need to win. It simply is. When you operate from the self instead of the persona, you gain freedom. You are no longer imprisoned by the need to be seen a certain way. You don't need to be the smartest, the strongest, the kingest, or the most composed. You can simply be whole, a human being with depth and clarity. Withdrawing from the persona is not an act of weakness. It is an act of profound inner power. It is saying, I no longer need to play a role to defend myself. I will meet this moment with truth, not with performance. And in that stillness, in that authenticity, you will find a calm so deep that no confrontation can shatter it. In the midst of confrontation, what rises within you is often not simply frustration or disagreement. It is something far older, deeper, and more intimate. It is your shadow. The part of you've been taught to silence. The part of you've hidden, rejected, or disowned in order to be accepted, to feel in control, to appear strong or kind or reasonable. And yet, when triggered, that shadow rushes forward, often uninvited and almost always unacknowledged. It shows up as sudden rage, a sarcastic tone, a sharp withdrawal, or a desperate need to prove your worth. These moments are not failures of character. They are doorways to truth. Jung taught that the shadow is not evil in itself. It becomes dangerous only when it is ignored. The shadow holds your unexpressed pain, your repressed anger, your forbidden desires, your unmet needs. It is the part of you that has been exiled. Not because it is bad, but because it was never allowed to be integrated. In confrontation, your shadow is often the first to respond. Not because it wants to destroy, but because it wants to be seen. If you judge it, suppress it, or deny it, you feed its power in the unconscious. You turn away from your own soul. But if you can stay present, observe your emotional surge without shame, and ask yourself, what is this really about? You begin the sacred work of integration. That moment of intensity, when your hands tremble, your chest tightens, and your thoughts race, is not a moment of weakness. It is a moment of meeting yourself. A younger part of you is speaking. Perhaps a part that was silenced as a child, ignored in love, humiliated in public, betrayed in silence. And now in confrontation, it demands your attention. To stay calm does not mean to repress your feelings. It means to allow them to rise without being consumed by them. It means to give your shadow a voice without letting it take the wheel. It means to look into the eyes of your own darkness and say, you belong too. And I will not exile you any longer. When you embrace your shadow without judgment, you no longer fear being too much or not enough. You become whole. And a whole person does not need to dominate, nor to submit. A whole person simply responds, with clarity, with strength, and above all, with inner peace. The calm you seek in confrontation is not the silence of suppression. It is the wisdom that comes from self-acceptance. And only when you love the parts of you that once scared you, can you meet the world without fear. When tension rises and words begin to cut, most people instinctively call upon the archetype of the warrior. The part of the psyche that seeks to conquer, defend, and protect at all costs. And while the warrior has its place, it often brings more fire to an already burning room. In confrontation, what we need is not more reaction, but reflection, not more noise, but insight. And that is when you must invoke the archetype of the sage. The sage is not loud. The sage does not rush. The sage does not need to be right. The sage observes. The sage waits. The sage understands that truth does not emerge from domination, but from stillness. Each of us holds within our unconscious a pantheon of archetypes, universal energies that shape how we perceive and respond to the world. The sage represents the inner teacher, the wise elder, the spiritual guide who sees beyond emotion and ego. When you tap into this part of yourself during confrontation, something miraculous happens. You begin to see with clarity instead of urgency. Rather than immediately reacting, the sage within you pauses and listens, not just to the words being spoken, but to the intention behind them. The sage does not get trapped in the literal. It listens for meaning. It asks, what wound is this person speaking from? What fear is hidden beneath their anger? What truth is being disguised by my own defensiveness? The sage knows that confrontation is often a mask for pain, both yours and theirs. To stay calm in a difficult moment, you must become that still presence. Not cold, not distant, but centered, rooted in insight, not impulse. The sage does not avoid conflict. It simply rises above the chaos of it, like a mountain unmoved by storms. It remains grounded while everything around it shakes. And the beauty of this archetype is that it needs no external power. It commands respect without raising its voice. It transforms the entire energy of a conversation simply by being fully conscious and deeply grounded. You'll notice that people argue less with a sage. Not because they are intimidated, but because they feel seen, not attacked. Heard, not cornered. To invoke your sage is to reclaim your inner throne. To step out of the emotional current and become the calm eye of the storm. You might ask, how do I access this sage within me when I feel hurt, triggered, or afraid? You begin by becoming still. By breathing. By refusing to answer immediately. By remembering that power does not come from reaction. It comes from restraint. In a world addicted to shouting, the sage teaches us the power of silence. In a world obsessed with being right, the sage reminds us of the peace that comes from simply understanding. So the next time you find yourself pulled into a confrontation, ask not, how can I win this? But rather, how can I rise above this? In that question, the sage awakens. Confrontation often seduces us into a false choice, to win or to lose, to be right or to be wrong, to dominate or to submit. This is the realm of duality, where everything is split into opposites and the ego clings to its side of the battlefield. But the soul, the true self, does not belong to this narrow framework. It does not crave victory. It seeks meaning. When you engage in conflict only to defeat the other, you become entangled in a drama of projection, fear, and defense. You stop listening. You stop seeing. You no longer seek truth. You seek triumph. But Jung reminds us that wholeness comes not from choosing sides, but from integrating opposites. The moment you drop the need to win, you begin to understand. And understanding is where calm, clarity, and transformation live. Ask yourself, why does this moment disturb me? What deeper truth is struggling to surface through this tension? The conflict may not be about the current situation at all. It might be about an old wound, a childhood pattern, a sense of rejection that's never been healed. And the other person may be playing a role in a story that began long before them. When you rise above the binary of right and they're wrong, you enter a sacred space. A space where confrontation becomes insight, where pain becomes teaching, and where division becomes dialogue. This is the essence of individuation, not the avoidance of conflict, but the integration of it. You learn to hold tension without collapsing into rage or retreat. You allow discomfort to be a guide, not a threat. You stop asking, how can I defeat them? And begin asking, what is this moment asking of me? Sometimes, confrontation is not there to destroy your peace. It is there to show you where your peace was never real, only imagined. Sometimes, it is the crucible through which your next evolution must pass. And once you transcend the need to win, something unexpected happens. You gain influence, not by force, but by presence. People sense your groundedness. Your words carry weight because they do not come from reactivity, but from inner alignment. You become the rare person who listens to understand, not to reply, who speaks to connect, not to conquer. To transcend duality is to step out of the battlefield entirely, not to flee from it, but to see it for what it truly is, a mirror. Every confrontation is a mirror, and meaning emerges not in victory, but in what you choose to see within yourself when you look into it. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength, the ability to choose consciousness over combat, depth over dominance, soul over ego. And in that choice, you do not lose the fight, you rise above it. To stay calm in confrontation is not about silence. It is about inner stillness. You are not there to win the war of words. You are there to understand what part of your soul is being called into awareness. Every conflict is an invitation to meet yourself more deeply. Meet the other, but never lose yourself. Speak your truth, but never abandon your peace. Walk through fire, but remain the flame, not the smoke. And always remember, true calm is not passive. It is the strength of a soul that no longer fears itself.